So Pam's going to bring up a slide, our wonderful PowerPoint shortly, and then we're going to just go around the room and introduce ourselves. I'm going to call your name out as it appears in your Zoom when we get to introduce you, and then I'll just call you by your first name, and then you can introduce yourselves. And we're going to follow this format. So this is just a little icebreaker. So I'm Sarah Fox, and I work for Moving Traditions, and I am currently in Pennsylvania. Now, what state you're in, is it your state of mind, or no, the state that in which you're located, because there are people on this call from all around the country. And my favorite musician or musical group when I was 12 or 13, it was Michael Jackson, I have to say. Yeah, big fan. And with me on this call also are Pam and Daniel. Pam and Daniel are going to be leading the bulk of the phone call. They are awesome staff people at Moving Traditions. So Pam and Daniel, do you want to introduce yourselves following this same format?
I'd be happy to.
Great, so Pam.
Pam Barkley, Moving Traditions. I'm in New York. And my favorite musician or musical group, probably REO Speedwagon. I know that dates me, but alas.
Daniel?
Hey, I'm Daniel, and I am in Montclair, New Jersey. And I think when I was 12 or 13, I really liked Michael Jackson, but truth be told, I was into the band Kiss.
Okay, Melissa?
I am Melissa Abel, and I work for Temple Bethel in Boca Raton, Florida. That covers 2 right there. And my favorite musician or musical group, sadly, was New Kids on the Block.
Oh, yes. I've posted the questions in the chat.
Thank you,
just
Pam.
so we can all see each other.
Thank you, Pam. Rabbi Cohen?
Oh, hi, Malcolm Cohen, working in Las Vegas, Nevada. When I was that age, God, that's a long time ago, but I reckon I was really into a band called Five Star, which is a very poppy band who probably wish they were in the same, from London, and probably wish they were in the same breath as someone like Michael Jackson.
Zahava?
Hi, I'm Zahava Davis. I work for Schwader Camp. I live in Denver, Colorado, and probably NSYNC.
Ooh, okay. Jody?
Hi, I'm Jody Abrams Schaefer. I live in Colorado as well. I run Schwader with Zahava, and then we also are responsible for all of the youth programming at Temple Emmanuel as of recently. So my favorite band gotta be the Beatles, always and now. So some things never change.
Good choices, good choices. Daniel?
Hi, I am Rabbi Daniel Alter. I work for Temple Beth MS in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Although at the moment I'm actually in Montana. And my favorite band at 12, probably Dave Matthews.
Good choice, good choice. Jen? I know who you are. Jen?
Hi, I'm Jen.
Jen.
Yeah.
We'll get to Joan. I'm Jen Crafton. I'm the Colorado Director for Moving Traditions. And I will tell you my favorite musician, and then I'll tell you where I live. It was John Denver, and I live in Denver. And it's not a coincidence.
Mindy?
I'm Mindy Silverstein. I am in Maryland. I work at Kol Shalom, which is also in Maryland. And I was going to say Bobby Sherman, but I'm maybe going to change it to the Beatles.
Lovely. Joan?
I'm probably going to show my age with this one. I'm
Okay.
Joan Hirsch. I work at Congregation Brothers of Israel in Newtown, PA, and I live in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. And I guess I'm going to say it was probably Barry Manilow, and probably the most excruciatingly embarrassing thing for my teenage girls was when I made them come to a Barry Manilow concert.
I made my husband come to a Barry Manilow concert.
Rachel?
Yes, hi, Rachel Mussoff. I am the education director at Kesher Israel in Westchester, Pennsylvania. I'm currently in Wilmington, Delaware, where I live. And my favorite musical group when I was 12 was probably New Kids as well.
Melissa, you are not alone.
Actually, it was probably a little older than 12.
That's okay.
But
It's okay.
close enough. It's okay.
Very honest.
David? Yeah. You're muted. You're muted, David.
I'm sorry, I joined slightly late. So the question is?
It's in the chat.
Sorry. It's
in the chat.
Your name, your full name.
Yeah, my full name is David Steinberg.
And where you are, your organization.
Yes, I'm the rabbi at Temple Israel in Duluth, Minnesota.
Wonderful. And so you're in Minnesota. That's the next. That's the next question. And then your favorite band when you were 12 or 13.
Well, when I was 12 or 13, I was listening to almost nothing but classical music, and so my favorite musician at that time.
Mozart.
Maybe the violinist Yehudi Menuhin.
Nice.
Very nice.
All right, Sherry.
I'm Sherry Greensteiner. I am the education director at Hebrew Educational Alliance in Denver, Colorado, and I am in Denver right now. I don't remember any groups that I liked at that age. The only name that came to mind was Boaz Sharabi. So that's probably who it was.
Nice, nice. Emily?
Hello, sorry I was a little late as well.
It's okay. It's fine.
My name is Emily Halpern. I'm the Assistant Director of Teen Engagement and Learning at Temple Sinai in Washington, D.C. I'm currently in D.C. Just for actually the week. I'm from New Jersey, which is where I've been spending my time with my family. A band, I would say the Backstreet Boys was my thing. Still like to hit that retro time.
And then finally, Tracy.
I'm Tracy Bernstein. I'm here representing two organizations, Jump Spark and Congregation Gesher LaTorah. We live in Alpharetta, a suburb of Atlanta, and I'd say by far Billy Joel was my favorite at that age.
Nice. Really good choices. I'm not so sure about my own choice, but really good choices for everybody else. And with that, I will be turning it back over to Pam.
So, eclectical taste, right, around the room. And this was just an exercise as we introduced each other to get into the brains of who we were when we were 12 and 13. All of Moving Traditions programs pretty much start 12 or 13 and go through the full gamut of teenage years. And we're going to introduce you to all of them, but we want you to start with a little bit about who you are, because that informs our understanding of what teenagers are, is what we remember from that particular time period. Whether it's through the lens of a musical, the musical, person you loved, or any other kind of lens. So we're just going to now turn and do a short little activity. These are all things that appear in various pieces of our curriculum, just so you're aware. And if you have never been introduced to the wonders of Padlet, welcome. In the chat right now is a Padlet link. When you click on it, you're going to be taken outside of Zoom, which is totally fine, and you're going to see a screen that asks you to look at the pictures that I have selected and say, which one best represents who you were at about 12 or 13? And you're going to again comment something on it, right? You're going to comment, this is me because. Okay, that makes sense? Everyone navigated okay to the Padlet? If you're having trouble, just speak up and I will help you, I promise. While you're all doing that, and commenting, I'm going to share my screen so we're all I can see what you're doing as well. But stay on your external link. Padlet has disappeared. Fascinating. Okay, I can't do that way. Then it's okay. I'm just going to look at it. Okay.
So we're supposed to pick one picture out of all of these?
Pick one picture. If you want to pick more than one, you can. You can say I was partially like this one. And also here I am again. It's anonymous, as you can see. So we're not going to know who said what.
Okay.
which is totally fine. And just, again, for teenagers, maybe a safer way to start things to be anonymous. There's a way to make this not anonymous, but that's not the way we're using it today. Just take a little look, see which one speaks to you the most. So I see people commenting. You could also like one of them if you wanted. There's a little heart button where you could like if you wanted.
How come mine wasn't anonymous?
Who
Mindy.
said that?
Mindy.
Have you been in a Padlet before with your name?
No.
Yes.
Really interesting. See, I'm learning something new. So that's an interesting thing to note when you're leading something, that if you've been on a Padlet before, it's going to remember you. Because it's remembered Jen Craft as well. So this is just to give you an understanding and an idea of the kinds of things we are doing to engage people in thinking about who they are, where they're at. This is a picture. It's projection on what we think is happening in this picture. And my guess is that different people will have interpreted these pictures differently. I haven't even read your comments yet, and I know that some people are going to look at a picture and say, oh, that's surely, the guitar one, surely camp, and some people are going to interpret it as not camp, because we're going to project our own things. That's totally fine, right? So as you're reading through other people's comments, if you've already commented, anything sort of stand out for you? You can unmute, by the way. I'm an unmute kind of person. I was a synagogue nerd.
I'm noticing that there are not many photos that only have one comment. Either they're empty or there are 4 or 5 of them, so there's a lot of shared experience.
That's I love that observation. Really interesting, right? Some have none, and then the other ones have a whole bunch. So is it that there's a lot of shared experience on this call? Or is it sort of the herd mentality that happens when one person comments, it makes it easier to comment, which is a very common thing among actual teenagers. I know you're not actually teenagers, but if you were, right, teenagers like to do the things that the other teenagers are doing. So that might be a factor in things. Who knows? Or maybe it really is that, given this is a call of Jewish educators, that the guitar with the group of friends really resonated for a bunch of people because a lot of you all went to Jewish summer camp. Yep, absolutely. But interestingly, if you look at the very first picture, I felt very overwhelmed by school and how much I disliked it from that picture. Whereas some people interpreted that I was a student activist, and someone else said I was into theater. So this one fits, right? It's just our projections onto it. So I'm going to ask you to, as fun as that is, to go back to your Zoom screen so you can see us all here. This is just an introductory activity that we do with parents of preteens to help them get in the head of what it was like to be a preteen as part of our B'nai Mitzvah program for Moving Tradition. So I will hand it on over to Daniel now.
And I'll unmute. So thank you so much, Pam. I really appreciate getting us engaged and taking us back into our 12 and 13-year-old selves just for a second, because that's really a very good grounding for the way that we approach the pedagogy of the Moving Traditions programs that we're going to talk about today. So let me just say very briefly a couple of the things that we're informed by in our work in Jewish education. One is the work of the feminist psychologist Sandra Bem, who for most of her career taught at Stanford. And her contribution to the field of child psychology is highlighting the way that gender codes grow and really start to become increasingly important around 6th grade. And what does that mean? That means that 6th graders, more than anyone, start to look at their peers and think, how are my peers walking and talking and acting? What are they into? Am I like them? And am I going to be accepted by them? Do they see me as somebody who is weird, or am I normal? What does it mean to be normal? Like all of the questions that come around 6th grade. And that peer influence, a lot of, not Sandra Bem, but other psychologists have said that peer influence goes from 6th grade to 10th grade. By 10th grade, most teenagers are looking more towards other young adults and thinking, okay, it's not just my peers that matter, but there are other people. And they latch on to teachers in a different way by 10th grade. Then they change their perspective on adults. They think, oh, I have something to learn. I can have a conversation with an adult where an adult treats me that way. But between 6th and 10th grade, you have this incredible peer influence. So that's one idea, Sandra Bem's idea. And the second idea is something that we learned from a wonderful psychologist in the Baltimore area, Bradley Sachs. And his premise is that adolescents are going through a state of mourning. And it's a state of mourning for their childhood. And this also kicks in around 6th grade, when you realize you're not going to have your first time doing this or first time doing that. And you can't order off a kid's menu, and you can't go on the kiddie rides at the amusement park, and all sorts of other things. And what we do in our community right around 6th grade is we create these photo montages of your entire life, your entire childhood, and we say, hey, look at this. That's your childhood. It's the first time you put it all together and go, oh, that's something that's behind me now. And there is, I think, a tremendous sense of loss that accompanies that transition. So what we try to do as an educational organization is really look at the questions like, what is the difference between the beginning of 6th grade and the end of 6th grade? What is the difference if you are a boy-identified person in a 6th grade where the other boy-identified people are obsessed with sports and you're not obsessed with sports? And all the other related ways that you can think about what is the 6th graders' experience and what are they going through, and then layer on that the relationships that they have with parents who have their own 6th grade selves inside of them, who are relating in all sorts of different ways about a big event, the B'nai Mitzvah, in their life. So a lot of the work that we try to do is we try to first get a good read of the social, emotional realities of middle schoolers, and then layer really strong Jewish education on top of that. And I think that this slide is a basic summary of what we do at Moving Traditions. We look at the social emotional learning core competencies for those people who did graduate work in education or took an education class where you got into social emotional learning. There are lots of people who talk about SEL, and I think the basic summary of what SEL is all about is it's a personal growth model for education. Thinking, how does this child grow? How can every child grow? They need to develop these things around the circle to grow. So what we do is we design educational programs that are really attuned to the developmental cycle as much as they possibly can be. We train educators, volunteers, and others to work with adolescents and to think about some of the elements of that particular moment of adolescents' life. And then we do very rigorous research, study the programs that we do. I can tell you now we are awash in data, and just because we have for years now done incredible work with educational partners, rabbis, and education directors who have helped us understand how our programs are impacting their families. So we can tell you quite a bit about what individual sessions do and the impact that they have on both parents and on preteens and teens, because we care a lot about this work, and we've really done that for every program that we offer. Let me give you the sort of array of programs that we currently offer. The first is the B'nai Mitzvah program, which is really we envisioned it as a dual track learning process that is a learning for the adult and a learning for the child at the same time. For the adults, we created a wonderful podcast called At 13. I don't know how many people had an opportunity to listen to it, but it's really a great little series for adults who are, for the first time, having a B'nai Mitzvah in the family. And there's also a series of family education events that adults participate in, which we have now webified, and we had wonderful success thanks to Pam with many partners who started the program in person and then had to move online and continue the program and continue to have participation at very strong rates online and good feedback all across the board because of very quick thinking on the part of some great support people. So B'nai Mitzvah is something that the parent and the preteen do together, some of the sessions, and then some of the sessions are specifically on preteen issues. And the issues for preteens include thinking about how they communicate with their parents. So that has become increasingly one of the more important pieces of all of this. And given the current condition between parents and kids, some of whom are so sick of each other, like we're hearing a lot. It's more important for us as Jewish educators to structure conversations where people can hear each other, understand very basic communication skills that can help them navigate stressful times such as these. So that's built into the B'nai Mitzvah program, and that is for 6th and 7th graders. And we can go in a little bit more detail about what it is if anybody has any questions later. The other programs that we have that are specifically for middle school are Rosh Chodesh, Shevet, and Selem that all start in 8th grade, and they go through 10th grade. But they start in 8th grade, and the reason they start in 8th grade is that first, there is the obvious drop-off between 7th and 8th grade for a lot of folks in Jewish education, but second, 8th grade is the time when the peer influence is at its very height for most teenagers. And 8th grade is the first time that they have friends or they themselves are taking the risks that teenagers take. And those risks can be very serious risks. So 8th grade is really the best time for those people who've done a lot of work in adolescent education based on positive youth models, positive I would say, approaches to helping teenagers and supporting teenagers. They say that this is a crucial year for intervention with a mentor who is not a parent and who is not an educator grading them, but is a person who can facilitate conversation with them. So that's really key to this work. And then finally, we have a new program that's a national program which has really picked up in its energy over the last year in particular. And that is a program that focuses on feminism and activism and feminism for older teens, and that's the Kol Koleni program. And if anybody wants to know more about that program specifically, we could share with that. So one other slide I really want to share before we get into a specific from the B'nai Mitzvah program is when we build curriculum, we're not just looking at the social emotional learning wheel. We're looking at a wider set of what are called the tasks of adolescence. This was developed by the Harvard Parenting Project. But the tasks of adolescence really look at different areas that we have to speak to in Jewish education. And you can see that these areas are very clearly outlined and are important for all of us to hit. And what you'll see in our work in the curriculum that we do, every one of our curriculum is structured in such a way to speak to the different tasks of adolescence in a way that an adolescent can feel that they're not threatened by, but they establish trust in the first conversations. So by the time that they get with a group over time, a few months in, they can talk about the most difficult of these tasks. So that's just a background into our pedagogy. And now we want to take you directly into one of our tools that we use. We love to use Jewish ritual and Jewish text in the work that we do. So we're going to do a little text study together here. So I'm just going to, I'll just read this aloud, and then we are going to have an opportunity through a whiteboard to plug in some of our own thoughts around this text. So this is from Yehuda ben Tema, one of the Tanaim, and Yehuda ben Tema said, 5 years is the age for the study of scripture, 10 is the age for the study of Mishnah, 13 is the age for observing the mitzvot, 15 is the age for the study of Talmud, 18 is the age for the wedding canopy, 20 is the age for pursuit, 30 is the age for full strength, 40 is the age for understanding, 50 is the age for giving counsel, 60 is the age for mature age, 70 is the age for a gray head, 80 is the age for superadded strength, 90 is the age for a bending stature, 100 is the age at which one is if dead, passed away, and ceased from the world. I know that last line is not true because my grandmother could still beat me at Scrabble at age 100. I just want to put that out there. But this is a beautiful text from our Mishnah that really can help us think about what are these ages today. So we're going to go to a whiteboard now. And we're going to focus in on some of those ages. I'm going to ask you to think a little bit about what these ages mean using the template from Yehuda ben Tema. What these 4 ages mean today. And you can just annotate right into this whiteboard. 5 is the age for blank. And be as specific as you would like to be. I love when people are super detailed and come up with examples that really are about these ages. So we're going to give everybody just a minute to fill this out, and then we'll
If you have not ever annotated on a whiteboard, just go to the top of your screen where there's a black toolbar, and it should say option for options. And one of the choices that comes down is the word annotate. Click on annotate, and a new toolbar will appear. Click the T for text, and then place your cursor somewhere on the board, and you will text. If anyone needs that repeated, let me know. Oh, someone is writing in you're drawing the words as opposed to texting the words, which is fine, but just know that instead of choosing draw, if you choose the T for text, you'll be able to use the keyboard. That's the word I'm looking for.
Did that? Okay.
So if you're drawing with the regular line, just know that if you choose instead the T instead of the draw, it defaults to the draw for some reason. But if you choose the T instead of the draw, you'll be typing.
So this is a beautiful already, and I can see like if we spend a little bit more time, people could sink into this a little bit more and riff on the different ages a little bit more. But even right now, I imagine that most of you are in the same position that I'm in, where I read these and I look at one of them and I go, yeah, that was me. Like I recognize myself in somebody else's comment, and that I recognize somebody else experienced the same thing that I experienced, or they see, even just that they see 10-year-olds who, you know, are just having increased independence and think there's 10-year-olds that are like, this is what's going on for them. Or they see 13-year-olds and they think bullies and they go, oh, this is very real for them. So in this little activity, I think what we can do is then we can push it a little bit more and ask, okay, well, what really is the difference between 10 and 13? What really happens between those two ages? What do people feel really resonates for them? And you could take it in a whole bunch of different ways, asking people to underline or star specific answers that you felt resonated with them, for example. But it's a good way for us to start thinking a little bit about the bigger question that this curriculum is asking, which is, what does it mean to become a teen? And for the parents, what does it mean to parent a teen? So it takes us to the bigger framing question and gives us a detailed way for us all to start thinking about some of those tasks of adolescence and thinking about the different ways that we expect things to be for 13-year-olds and what that means for them in their life. So this is just one example of something that's already in a webified family education curriculum. So you can see how it could be used with a group of parents and preteens together and have them fill out the things together and begin to lead a conversation about that. And we're going to try to give you more examples of other modalities that we use as we go along in this particular webinar. So Pam, back to you.
So that was an example from our B'nai Mitzvah curriculum. And I'm going to bridge us into some of our teen curriculum as well. But before I do, I just want to remind you of Daniel's, when he described the tasks of adolescence, if you look at these, a lot of them actually have something to do with who we think of ourselves in terms of our gender. So when we say at Moving Traditions that we help our preteens and our teens think about their own gender identity in terms of who am I and what are other people in my gender group feeling and doing and saying and dressing and all the rest of it, it is partially because that is part of the task of adolescence. So if you look at this list, right, can someone name me one? Unmute. Tell me one that has something to do with gender on this tasks of adolescence. Give me one. Speak up.
Adjusting to sexually maturing bodies and feelings.
Terrific. Absolutely. Gender's what's going on with your gender and gender codes are definitely going to play a role. Anyone see another one?
Learning about human relationships.
Terrific. Learning about human relationships. In fact, I might argue that almost all of these in some ways might have something to do with gender, or could, depending on the particular individual involved. So part of our attempt at using the gender lens is to be in line with the tasks of adolescence, which are for everybody, the tasks of adolescence. So I'm going to share with you, just to give you a snapshot of gender codes. This actual picture is also in one of our B'nai Mitzvah sessions. Used exactly as I'm using it with you, is just as a snapshot of, when I say gender codes, here's what I mean. Again, please unmute, what in this picture is challenging a gender norm in your mind? What's challenging a gender norm here?
They're playing with the opposite toys we'd expect.
They're playing with the opposite toys we'd expect. Terrific.
The couple is a man and a woman.
Couple's a man and a woman. Terrific. Terrific. Anything else? Where else do you see a gender norm in here? Where do you see a gender norm?
The girl or the person on the right is in shorts as opposed to a dress or a skirt.
True, absolutely, right. So I could literally spend 45 minutes on just this cartoon. I could. We're not going to, though, because this was just to give you a snapshot of how quickly we could hone in on what is gender codes. Like, this is what we use with families so they understand what we're talking about, right? And just saying, like, we're used to seeing girls play with dolls and boys play with trucks. This challenges that in an instant, in one thing. I don't know why the picture is pink. That just is. We have to get it unpink. Anyway, so I'm going to stop sharing now. And here's what I'm going to ask you all to do. Could you take a piece of scrap paper, any paper, don't care what it is, and I want you to make one that has an F on one side and an M on the other. Or you could take two pieces of paper. I don't care. An F, an M, and an F. Okay, easy enough, right? Mission accomplished. accomplished, thumbs up if mission accomplished. Okay, great. So I'm gonna say a word, and what I want you to do is when you hear that word, picture someone being what I just said, being the word I said, or doing what I said. Leader. What was the first image that came into your mind of a person? And was it a male or a female? Hold up your signs, male or female. Okay, so we have a lot of males, but a couple of females floating around. All right, let's try another one. Same idea, see, now you know the game. But first thing that comes to mind, be as honest as possible, right? That's the idea of this. If I say to you, parent, what's the first thing that came into your mind? M or F? Female, all across the board, right? For those of you who aren't on video with us, if you want to join in video for just this part so you can see, I guess you can see us, we just can't see you. Just realized that. But if you want to join to play the game, feel free to join us. I'm gonna do one more with this. Athlete.
Sorry, David.
Male or female?
I don't. Maybe my subconscious is not being honest, but literally every term that you said, I immediately saw a man and a woman.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we could unpack that and have that conversation as well, because different people are going to react differently to this. Part of it is also your own experience. When I hear the word athlete, I'm going to be honest, I think female right away because I have two girls who have been competitive gymnasts. So like that's my brain, right? It depends on on what your own personal experience is. But what might be interesting for you to observe is that there was pretty good agreement on the word parent. Everyone, for whatever reason, F is the first one that came to mind. Obviously, we all know parents come in all genders, right? We know that factually, and yet there is still some sort of gender code that goes through our brains that make that the first thing for a lot of us that came to mind. Not for everyone, totally fine. And when I'm pulling out now, right? When you're leading this activity, there may be people in the room who feel differently. This is an activity actually from one of our teen groups. So you would be doing this with only teenagers, just so you're aware, not with parents, with only teenagers. They may have a whole different understanding of this, right? Depending on the group that you are with. I want to just do a quick round of attributes. I'm gonna say a list of attributes, or I'm gonna do one at a time though. And I want you, it's again going to be male or female, right? So if I say emotional. Okay, we have a lot of female. David, are you still having the same trouble? You had a picture of both people?
I am, my brain is so resistant to this exercise. Like I can't bring myself to pick one gender.
No problem. Totally fine. In fact, you know what we're going to do for literally a minute? Can everyone, if you're able, can you stand up? We're going to do it a different way. I have this is one of the other ways we suggest doing it online now. Stand up and take like 5 steps back from your computer, because then it'll be more of a true barometer. If I'm like this, face up to my computer, that's my new M for male. If I'm 5 steps away, that's my new F for female. That means that I could choose to stand 5 steps away, 4 steps away, 3 steps away, right? I can choose how much I feel it's male or female, right? I'm giving you a way to, David, a way to sort of give us a little more color to where you are. Does that help? So let's do an attribute. Let's do, male is at your computer, female is the 5 steps away. Good at math.
Say that again.
Good at math. Good at math. Where are you? So we have a few people face up. A few of us took a few steps forward, right? We have a little bit more nuance going on now.
I'm probably just not your ideal audience because I'm paralyzed by this exercise.
Interesting. it's an interesting observation that our minds are so now used to thinking in this more expansive way that this is difficult, right? So what I would wonder is, are there any things I could say, we're not going to do this, that would make you feel like you had enough leeway between the different sides of things to make you feel comfortable?
Probably not, because it's like so fundamental to me that you could be however you want to be, whatever your gender is.
Yep. Now, the truth is that everyone can sit down, because we could do more of them, but the truth is that your teens today, and this is again a teen exercise, are quite woke to these kinds of ideas and may push back in this kind of way or may not. It will really depend on the group that your group leader is leading. But it is still useful to know that gender codes exist out there in our society. We are marinated in them from the moment we are born. There are infant studies, literally, where it's unbelievable the difference of what parents expect from a male or female crawling child, for real. Okay, so some of this really happens very, very early on, and there are different sort of expectations associated for men and boys and women and girls in certain ways. Still in our society in 2020. We are working for it to not be so, but some of this is still exists, and it is almost through osmosis that we get some of this. In addition, biology plays a role. DNA is a real thing, right? Science, I'm a science fan. There are hormones, right? There are real differences. But our teens are also really influenced by what society says about what it is to be a boy or a man, what it is to be a girl or a woman, what I'm expected to do, what I am not allowed to do. Those are still real messages, and part of what Moving Traditions seeks to do is to help our teens unpack those messages and think critically about them, to decide what pieces am I taking in and what pieces am I saying, no, that's not me. And some of you may have your own personal experiences where you didn't fit those expectations of what was set for you, right? I didn't fit into this way, right? I've heard 1,000 times, I was a boy who didn't like playing sports. So I didn't fit in some way. And I bet some of you have those kinds of experiences too. What we're seeking to do is to help our teens to unearth the fact that these gender codes exist, that they are receiving these messages all the time, and we want to help them be savvy about the messages they want to take in versus the messages they want to push back on. So that's just like a little tiny example of something we do in one of our teen sessions. And I started again with the gender norms image. That's from one of our B'nai Mitzvah sessions. So it's something that goes throughout our programming, this concept of gender codes. So I'm going to now turn it back to the screen just changed, to my friend Sarah, to tell you a little bit more about how we work.
Great, thank you, Pam. Thank you, Daniel. So Moving Traditions works with Jewish organizations across North America. I'm very particular about adding that North America in because I'm Canadian, so I like to make sure that we're inclusive of Canada, even though we only have 2 partners there right now. But I have dreams. So we license our programs to partners and generally congregations, but there sometimes are community groups or that kind of thing, or JCCs or that kind of thing. So we license our programs. We provide training. So this summer, all of our training conferences will be online. We're having a B'nai Mitzvah training in August and one in September. And we're having one in teen training in August and one in October. Pam will talk more about that in just a minute. We also run our programming directly. So in some cities, we hire educators who facilitate the programs. We do this with our teen groups. We haven't directly done B'nai Mitzvah, not yet at this time. In those kinds of cases where we have community groups, we handle all of the administration of the program. So it also gives us the experience of troubleshooting issues directly that might go on that then allows us to share that feedback with our partners if they have trouble, because we have that experience to share. Traditionally, in the pre-pandemic world, we recommend to our partners to launch the programs in the fall, and so educators and clergy are trained over the summer. And our role as Moving Tradition staff people, so my role with most of you, except for the Denver participants and the Pennsylvania participants, is that I would help you, provide structure and guidance in scheduling the programming, ensuring you have the right educators in place, and all of Moving Traditions works with you on this as well, and support your implementation on an ongoing basis. For those in Denver and in Pennsylvania, we have staff people who work with you directly on that. So at this time right now during the pandemic, we're also working to support partners to be even more flexible with the programming. So for example, if you have a specific need to extend programming over the summer or to start programming earlier than the fall, we can help you do that. A lot of synagogues are coming to us to say, we don't have any summer programming in place because camps have been canceled. We want to do something for our teens. How can you help us? So we're working with them to figure out how to do that. And we also are ensuring that all of our materials going forward will be flexible. So they're going to be able to be implemented either online or in person, and both. So you can have a mixture of that with your group. So that's really helpful. We have a lot of experience with that because our Tselem groups traditionally, for the groups for non-binary teens, have been done online. So we've been doing that for 2 or 3 years now. So we have a lot of experience with the format and how to make it work. And then, people are always interested in, well, what does the program cost, right? So our B'nai Mitzvah program, our board recently agreed to lower the cost of the program. For B'nai Mitzvah partners, it's $360 for the teen program. So if you want to do them separately, teens is $600, and for both altogether, it's $750. So if you wanted to do all the programs in your community, there's an application process, that kind of thing. We would go through that with you if you're interested in exploring more. Then the next steps would be, following this webinar, I'm going to send you a really brief survey, and we ask you to take it just so we can learn more, because we like data. We like to evaluate the information that we've shared. And then following that, I will reach out to you to see if you want to schedule an appointment to speak with me, or if you're in Pennsylvania or Colorado, to speak with Jen Kraft or Eve Berger. Pam, did you want to say something more about training?
Sorry, I was just trying to answer in the chat, but I'll answer out loud instead, which is the B'nai Mitzvah program is what we recommend is 2 family sessions per grade, 6th grade and 7th grade. We will have this year 4 choices. Some of our partners are doing more than 2. Each of the sessions for the online world, for the in-person world, they were formatted to be an hour and a half. For the online world, they're formatted to be about an hour. And our preteen sessions, we recommend 4 per grade. They're formatted to be about an hour. For a B'nai Mitzvah program to be viable, that's an interesting question. We have people who are doing it with small groups. 3 kids and their parents on a family session, it certainly is doable. You also can choose to do 6th and 7th grade in combination. We have a way to do that as well. In other words, a lot of our B'nai Mitzvah sessions, while they use B'nai Mitzvah as a jumping off point, they are not wedded to B'nai Mitzvah itself, which means that you can use them with kids who are already through the process. All of our 7th grade sessions, you do not have, your B'nai Mitzvah could have been 6 months ago, and they are all completely still relevant because the tasks of adolescence that Rabbi Daniel explained are still relevant, right? All of those things are still existing. You don't one day become a teenager and, oh, I got it all, or become a parent of a teenager and say, oh, I got it all. And if you've ever parented a teenager, you already know that from experience. So it is an ongoing process, and we want to help parents and kids have these conversations on an ongoing basis. So I don't know if that answered, Joan, your question. It can fit into existing 6th and 7th grade.
About the B'nai program at this time.
What?
I have a 5th, 6th grade, a 6th, 7th grade combination. So
you absolutely can do this.
Okay.
6th and 7th grade, we have a version you're using the same curriculum. We just help recommend the order to do them in. But 6th, 7th grade combined, we've got lots of partners around the country who are doing 6th and 7th grades together. No problem.
So at this point, I don't know where we're going to be. If we're going to be, you know, in a Zoom room or a real room.
Correct. So nobody knows that, which is why Moving Traditions is right now on our website. If you went, there's one button for online, one button for in person. And if you're literally downloading a different version of most of the time the very same session. Okay. And the ones that used to be in person, and we've made them webified so that you can use them exactly as they're as written, and you don't have to do any of the work yourself. We're doing that work for you. That is my job this summer. And then someone also asked, so the B'nai Mitzvah program is led by you all. We train you. So Daniel and I actually run the B'nai Mitzvah training, and we train you. And by you, I mean the large you, whoever that is in your congregation who you want to be there. We train you online this year. We train you, and you run it yourselves. In other words, you run your family sessions, you run your preteen sessions. That said, Moving Traditions field team members can help support you when needed in running some of the family sessions. If you need some help with the facilitation, you definitely need 2 people to facilitate a session online or in person, because we break up parents and kids in our B'nai Mitzvah sessions. We always break them up. So you definitely need 2 people, minimum. Obviously, always better to have more. Training will be it'll be all of the people who come to training come together. We're offering B'nai Mitzvah training twice this year so far. We may add dates if we have more interest. Once in, where is this? Once
in August.
Once in August, it's on our website, I believe.
Yep.
Once in August and once in September at the moment. So August 25th and September 3rd are the current dates for B'nai Mitzvah training. And then teen training, we have a date in August and a date in October as well. The B'nai Mitzvah training is a 3-hour training. The teen training for group leaders or group leader supervisors is going to be 2 different days, 3 hours each day. So on a Monday and a Wednesday, or a Sunday and a Tuesday, that kind of thing in the same week. Any other questions people have? Feel free to unmute, or you can keep writing them in chat. That's fine too. We've stunned them all. Obviously, this is not the end of a conversation. So if you have other questions, absolutely, feel free to reach out to us. You all obviously have Sarah's email address. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I will be following up with you too. So.
Right, because she's going to send
I'm going to send a survey, and then when the recording is ready, I'm going to, Zoom takes a day or 2. I will send out a link to the recording. So.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So unless anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to answer, or for anyone else. It doesn't have to be for me.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So regarding the teen program, that it's split up in boys and girls, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
What if you have one child who identifies as transgender or doesn't identify as male or female? Where would they go? And can you have a group with only one child or 2 children? I mean, I don't know.
Daniel, do you want to answer this? You want me to take it?
Sure, I can, like we were asking ourselves this question 5 years ago before we created the CELM program, which is a program for teens who identify as gender non-binary or genderqueer or trans. And initially we were thinking, well, we'll do this only as a national program. We'll make it an online program because we did not have that many teens in any specific place. But then as the program grew, we realized we had enough teens in Boston and enough teens in New York and enough teens in Los Angeles. And so then we began to form in-person groups for teens that were non-binary or transgender. And they were very happy to be with other teens who shared their identity. And we've been doing this in partnership with Keshet. So right now, we still offer all of the programs, and we really we really want to say we trust people who are in a local institution. You know your teens. So if you have like hesitations, you think, oh, my teens are not going to fit into these categories, it's not the thing for you, you know? So we really want to make sure that people are aware of the teens in their community. And I'm finding, I mean, in the last few years, education directors are very aware. Sometimes education directors are even more aware of parents about the way that their middle schoolers in particular are thinking about themselves and their identity. So that is something that we definitely think about. And then we also have partners who think, I have this group of boys, they need a program. They need a mentor, it would be amazing. Or I have this group of girls and they would be perfect for a mentor, it would be amazing. So we really trust the judgment of the local folks around if that particular model works.
Rachel, I just want to say that there is a Zelm group also in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that.
Right. So it's okay. It's okay. And that's run through the Federation. Through Federation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wasn't sure if that was something that, if I have this teen program and one or two of my students are left out because they don't fit in that genre, whatever, then I would then send them to Federation.
You could theoretically have them be a part of that program. I'm going to mention your questions to Eve, Eve Berger, who is your contact at Moving Traditions, and she'll talk to you directly about what the possibilities are in the Philadelphia area.
Well, I'm just throwing it out there because I have, you know, it seems to be more prominent now, and I'm just trying to prepare myself that, you know, I don't want anyone to feel left out or
different.
You know,
And we would hate for that to happen.
Yeah.
That's like would go against everything we believe
I'm
in.
just like
which
thinking
is why
ahead.
we have the array of groups that we have. We also, I can tell you from historically, because this has been going on for us for a very long time, we have had kids who start out in one group in Rosh Chodesh and then say, nope, not for me, actually. I think I belong in Salem, or vice versa. Or Shep, right? If they know that they have a choice and they are invited and welcome into any of the choices where they see themselves, and that they can change their minds, right? Because that's the whole point, right? They can change where they feel comfortable. That's what you're looking to create for your teens. Right? That kind of environment. Well, they'll be where they can come to you and say, you know what, Rachel, this isn't for me anymore. I feel differently than I felt 6 months ago. And you help navigate for them where they could go next, depending on what the issue is.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. I just sent while you were talking, I just sent Eve an email to reach out to you. So
Great.
Okay. Mindy.
Yeah.
Can we partner with another school, another synagogue, so we could share the cost
for the B'nai Mitzvah program, or for the
B'nai Mitzvah? Because we have 3 in our 6th grade class, and we don't have a 7th grade class.
Sure. So that is possible. What we recommend in that case would be that one synagogue would be the synagogue that holds the licensing and the partnership agreement, so that we're not dealing with 2 around a licensing agreement, and then between the 2 communities you would operate it together. But Mindy, if you're interested in that, I can work with you on that too.
Okay. Let me all right, thank you.
So I know that you're in Virginia, right?
Maryland,
sorry. Okay, fine. So I'm thinking there's a very small community in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And they're very, very small, and they've been running it very well with the small group. But I understand about the cost and things like that. But let's talk together. Let's talk.
Right now, geography isn't as much of a obstacle.
I know.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time to work on collaboration, because geography no longer matters, right? So let's think creatively about that. Why not use that to our, there should be some silver linings to this. So let that be one of them, that you can find a way to collaborate with somebody.
Sure, Daniel, I can connect you with that. Let's connect about that, exactly what you would like, and I'll make sure I connect you with the right people. So.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you all. If you think of other questions that you're like, oh, I should have asked that, you know, you'll shoot an email or you'll ask it in the evaluation and we'll hear it. Don't worry, we will get back to you, we promise.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to learn about moving traditions. And we hope that you liked what you heard and that we'll hear from you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Be well.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you.